Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull-out toolbox, and the soft glow of the fuel preheater gauge.
This is Precinct 57. How may I assist you? Yes. It took some convincing, but I got the mercenary's name and a few biographical details. Are you ready?
The lieutenant leans in to listen. Notebook.
That suit of armor was issued to an Oranese citizen named Elis Kortenaer. That's E-L-L-I-S Kortenaer. Exact date of birth, unknown. He was signed into the Lelystad County Neonatal Care Unit on 28th of February, 09. He was found as a newborn in a leaf compactor near an abandoned farm. He spent 4 months in the neonatal unit, survived apparently, and was assigned to a foster family at 2.
According to Klasia, Lele said his real name wasn't really his. Perhaps that's because he was fostered.
This is what the ICP knows about him. He was raised by foster parents, entered the Eastbrand Military Academy in Vredefort at 17, then served in the Oranese forces till he was honorably discharged in 41, just a year before the Seminese conflict. Then the armor followed him to Seminine, or at least I assume it did. And that's it. There are no records of his employment in Crenel, or any of its other incarnations, or him even entering Revachol. It's a garden tool used to press leaves into these cubes. It's a detail the hospital had, the only detail in these files. So I thought it would be good for you to know.
It is. Thank you, Alice.
None, officer. Sorry.
Even that is a small miracle. These organizations usually double-check their inventory. Thank you, Alice. Great work.
No problem, Lieutenant.
The name. This is very good. Elis Kortenaer.
This means something to him, to know that name. Like naming a case. It's important. Sometimes police work is about human dignity, about giving back names to anonymous victims.
I'm glad the inquiry was helpful to your investigation, officer. Did you have any other questions? 57's over and out.
In the cabin, you see a
I'll just keep the Cor de Leche in the channel, if that's okay. It's too shallow near the pier.
Hi, ma'am. And it's a jetty, by the way.
Of course. Jetty. I prefer a good jetty to a pier any day. Jetty?
Something about the way she says it makes you want to sing.
Oh, jetty, oh, jetty. It's good to see you here, detectives. I only just arrived myself.
What brings you here, madame?
Nothing, really. I've had my eye on this jetty for weeks now, so I decided to investigate it personally. This cluster of buildings isn't on any of the official maps, as far as I can tell.
That. And she's also keeping an eye on you.
How do I like it?
Water drips down eaves of Eternite. The jetty below her feet creaks to the tune. The smell of salt and dog shit in the background.
It's pornographically poor. The street has no name, all the men are dead or missing. And is that the carcass of a motor carriage over there? I'm surprised that woman hasn't put me to the sword yet. Maybe she will. You should ask your questions while you can.
Dark eyes survey the coast leading up to Martinez. Dull grey metal rests in her scabbard. A sword. The wind is too loud for her to hear.
Fortunately for you, madame, the RCM is on the scene.
All right. Politics time. Let's react.
Maybe. Have I told you how they discovered this place? No, they're in Celindian, Isla. I'm guessing you don't know then. Well, your condition has left you no worse off than most of these people. The literacy rate is around 45% west of the river. 50 years of occupation have left these people in an oblivion of poverty. I knew you would sympathize. Most Revacholians will never know what this place means. Our home. This island of matter. Or why they were ferried over in the first place. Remind me to tell you one day. For now, how can I assist you in this new location?
Do we?
I hear you have singled out a suspect and are in pursuit. This is cause for cautious optimism. I would not want to delay you.
This story she will tell only before she leaves Martinez, at the very end of her stay.
Maybe there is something else I can assist you with, while you're hot in pursuit? By love, you did.
Fast, observantly, like an electronic printer.
Pleased to meet you, Lieutenant W. Freighter Dubois. I am glad to see a man of high qualification. The situation is precarious. What can I help you with, Lieutenant Freighter? More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything.
6 kilometers southwest, in the Valley of Dogs, Junior Officer Chad Tilbrook takes aim at a rabid black dog licking its wounds in the grass. To his left, his partner, Emil Mullins, whispers, "You heard what happened to Tequila Sunset in Martinez?" "Yes, he lost his mind," Tilbrook answers, fingers on the trigger. "Don't worry, Emil." He pulls it out slowly. Slowly now. He'll find it again. We always do.
You? You're an officer of the RCM. Preciso Mundo. Nothing more nor less than the de facto law enforcement body of post-revolutionary Revachol, Detective.
Yes, we are the Revachol Citizens Militia.
He's being sarcastic.
Yes, that means not de jure. The RCM acts in what is poetically called the twilight of international law, both at the behest of the coalition government and to its chagrin. The RCM's responsibilities are defined by the Emergency, Wayfarer and Aliments Acts, 3 pieces of legislation keeping the city in a, let's be honest, laissez-faire stasis to the benefit of foreign capital.
All 3 are good to know when we are out policing.
There's nothing basic about your role, Detective. It's true that the RCM keeps everything the way our seemingly permanent, provisional rulers like it. Yet, on the other hand, I know these people. I deal with them daily. Let me tell you, dear, they are not fans of you. The post-revolutionary decade was a disaster for the coalition government. Revachol in the 20s was hell, especially on the west side of the river. Gang warfare, a botched privatization scheme, a nuclear pile meltdown. They called it the International Zone, because no nation wanted to claim responsibility. The RCM restored peace where the Coalition failed. A true blue citizens' initiative. They will never forgive you.
That's somewhat of an exaggeration. In reality, ours is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Ravacholians get to keep the peace in Ravachol, and the Coalition doesn't have to worry about it. Anyway, sorry to intrude. Please continue.
Yes, Lieutenant. Permit me to conclude with this. Who you are, to me, is the police. The only legitimate law enforcement authority in Revachol. And if those authorities drink so hard they need help recalling the basic terms of reality, well, I'm here to help. Glad to have been of assistance. You're back. Good. What can I help you? More lessons in basic reality?
A strange coldness comes over you as you look at the world.
Glad to have been of assistance. You're back. Good. More lessons in basic reality?
A strange coldness comes over you as you look at the world. The waves sway.
Glad to have been of assistance. You're back. Good. More lessons in basic reality?
What is all of this? The scent, the sound, the air.
What world? The only one, I suppose. The world of matter. And its pale antipode.
The camera of her mind glides over the surface of the water.
Great bodies of water. Forest-covered surfaces. Clusters of light where the cities lie. You've seen the montage. We all have. This world is enough.
It must be. This is the greatest and the kindest arrangement the atoms had in them.
Indeed. There is a term of endearment they coined for it. In the DeLorean century, when humanity was high on this world, discovering more and more of it. These archipelagos included. Elysium. It does. There are those who would call it hell. A term of hatred that originates, like many such things, with the Mesk petro-fascists. Oh, you want a picture of the world? There is no complete set yet, dear. They're having some trouble reaching orbit. Great things are difficult to achieve. For now, we're viewing the world from the inside, sideways. We used to think it was a sphere, but that is beginning to look less and less likely by the day. You wouldn't know it from the tabloids, but the ORG nations have been launching weather balloons into the lower ionosphere since the 30s.
ORG, Occident Revachol Grad.
There's a steadily increasing trickle of images. Between the big three scientific contributors, they're piecing together a dark grey corona. Yes. Pale covers 72% of the surface. There are grey flares and prominences, even arcs above entire isolas. The images are blurry, but if there was a sphere in there, it certainly looks like it fractured a long time ago.
A cold fear seeps into you.
They say there is a rarefied envelope of matter surrounding the darkened disk of our planet. That is, if we are still living on a planet. Or, to speak more plainly, imagine vast swathes of land disrupted by nothingness. I am sorry, dear. It must sound quite terrifying through the acute encephalopathy. Even scientific positivism isn't entirely convinced about what we're dealing with here. But this is one of the greatest questions of our time. Maybe when they get the complete set together, it will jolt us out of our rut, bring us together, however naive it may sound. I don't know about things of that scale. My expertise lies in nations and trade routes, one or several layers below everything. But yes, we'll be fine. Don't worry.
She does not seem convinced that you'll be fine. If anything, she's realizing how deep your condition runs.
You may have misimagined it. I don't have the power to convey to you the effect and geometry of the images that depict our world from below low orbit. It's like the crowning of the world. It's insane. Very disco. You'd love it. See? Everyone finds something worth holding on to in this world, however wasted its opportunities.
Suddenly, you're conscious of yourself standing there, on whatever this all is. Your arms hang down by your sides. The lieutenant observes you both, silently. He adjusts his glasses.
The Pale is not, technically speaking, part of reality.
Yes. Also, I think we've had enough excitement for today. We do have a case to attend to.
Of course, Lieutenant. Let's try something else.
Ma'am, remember you are dealing with a very sensitive and impressionable police officer who is still recovering from a recent medical episode.
The Lieutenant's right. Let's change topics. What do you want to know? Anything.
You could sneak back, later, when the lieutenant is not here, unless you can convince him to step aside. Good idea. Just ask him. He won't make a scene.
Fine.
See? What can he do? You're a grown man.
Are you sure you're sure? Your colleague seemed adamant. Okay. The Pale is the most dominant geological feature of the world, Detective. The separative tissue between the islas. It is the inter-islary mass. Achromatic, odorless, featureless. The Pale is the enemy of matter and life. It is not like any other, or anything in the world. It is the transition state of being into nothingness. Oh, it is so difficult for us.
A squall of birds. Hardware operating in the harbor. Firm. Self-evident.
It is possible to force dimensions on the Pale. In modern times, we can even compress its latitude, bouncing radio waves from one end to the other, shortening the path. But it is still hard for humans to navigate the Pale without getting lost, or having our minds damaged. Extensively. Some say the damage stems from extreme sensory deprivation. Others argue that Pale somehow consists of past information that's degrading, that it's rarefied past, not rarefied matter. They call it the blend over of the self. The Pale does not only suspend the laws of physics, but also the laws of psychology, maybe history even. The human mind becomes over-radiated by past.
Who says and who argues?
The logical positivists say, the dialectical materialists argue. It feels terrible. Absolutely terrible. International standards strictly limit civilian travelers to 6 days of Pale exposure per year.
It's more for her. Way more.
No, Lieutenant Dubois. I'm entreprenetic business class. I'm cleared and trained for 22 days of Pale transit annually.
Perhaps that explains her strange pining after the revolution. Some degraded early memories.
Up to my gills, officer. Entreponetics is the scientific study of the Pale, or a recent iteration of it by way of grad. The study of the Pale reaches back 6,000 years. The Pericarnassians called it the Western Plain.
They had not traveled the entire circumference of the Pericarnassian Super E Solar. It was not merely in the west, it was everywhere, even then, surrounding them.
There are signs of pretermodern crossings. Successful navigation of the Pale relies not just on technical know-how, but intensive psychological preparation. Some of these tactics have been known for thousands of years. Nothing. We remain powerless before the Pale. The only real advance in Pale transit is the speed with which an aerostatic craft can pierce it. Less exposure leads to less effects later. Hybrid airships, Detective. Conventional rotors or jet engines no longer add velocity after the point of reference for motion is suspended, once you've crossed from near Pale to far Pale. In essence, we throw them in and they come out the other end. If we throw them precisely. Then they don't.
Gone, like a skipping stone beneath the surface.
No, Detective. We're safe. It begins there, 6,000 kilometers to the north, and even more to the south, east, and west. You are in the middle of the Isla.
As your gaze instinctively turns north, a small black pit opens up in your stomach.
An uproar of matter, darling. Rising into the Pale. Rolling. Evaporating even. A great vision. The area of transition between the world and the Pale is called porch collapse. Imagine a grey coronal mist, cold vapor marked by spores of an opportunistic microorganism, a mold that's adapted to grow at the edge of the unrest. It's the most disco thing you will ever see. It's difficult to describe, or even measure. Something whose fundamental property is the suspension of properties. Physical, epistemological, linguistic. The further into Pale you travel, the steeper the degree of suspension, right down to the mathematical. Numbers stop working. No one has yet passed the number barrier. It may be impossible. The Pale outweighs reality 2 to 1. There is more Pale than there is matter, and the ratio is slipping. What do you think, Detective? Precisely. One of the few measurable effects of the Pale is that it is expanding at an unknown rate. An intuitive conclusion of that development is that one day the Pale will cover everything. But this sort of talk is mostly left to extremists. Most people, and indeed most private and government sector organizations, entire civilizations and religions even, find handy ways to ignore or downplay that knowledge. I suggest you do the same.
Off we go. You see the hanged man's mouth open.
One and all. They say Pale is death, but for the universe.
Why should we just leave, and the world get left behind?
Yes, sweet reality. But before we do, tell me, Detective, is this the first time you're hearing this? Do you really not remember anything? Beyond curious. Tell me, what do you think of the Pale? You really didn't know. This does not spell good for the investigation, Detective. If you don't know even this, then... I hope so. I truly do. If I may suggest, hold on to your colleague, Kitsuragi. I ran a check on him and he is very competent. In the meanwhile,
Some of that assurance is meant for herself, as much as it's meant for you. She must have a lot on the line here.
you have me. I will assist you in any way I can, even if we have to do it one basic term at a time.
Good. You have not passed out from it. Perhaps I worried for nothing. Are we still on the reality lowdown, or should we do actual police work now? Yes, well, the rest of us have dealt with it for thousands of years, so...
You will have to deal with it, too, the lieutenant thinks. This is why I didn't want you to know.
I am happy to oblige. Glad to have been of assistance. The little...
She's not even asking you anything. It's so easy to just say.
Sounds like he has you running errands, Detective. A well-established dominance ritual. Where did he have you deliver it? Here? Oh no. What does that bloated hellbat want with my little cinder-block town?
It's clear the village has already grown dear to her. Strangely so. Why did she come here?
No, don't tell me. I don't want to know what he has in store for this place. Probably a statue. It's a statue, right? A giant statue of him. Or better yet, his twin brother. Practically the same thing, but makes him seem less like a psychopath. A youth center with Edgar Clare's statue on top of it. Go ahead. Help him. Make it so. I have no power to stop him. I should be. In my youth, I had a brief dalliance here in Martinez. He was an older man with impossibly broad shoulders. He's probably dead by now. Even his shack is long gone. Not that it matters. These buildings are all carbon copies of one another. Yes, I was slumming it with some girlfriends of mine. We had boats and... Don't hold it against me. My paramour certainly did not. Not overly so. It's not like this was the only place we visited. Me and my girlfriends from Azon with our shiny boats. Like reavers. We told ourselves we were the worst thing to happen to the coast since the Coalition landed in '08. Imagine.
Oh no, she's sentimental, all right. Why would she come here otherwise?
I'm over-radiated, Harry. I do silly things sometimes, out of Pale-related illness. Like sail over here. The moral of the story is, do not spend 22 days a year in Pale transit. Don't waste your 20s slumming it with your stupid friends. And don't deliver Everard Clare's mail. Are you satisfied, Detective? What else can you tell me about your mail delivery quest for Everard? Do you think it will improve the place? Yes. I'm sad I'll never have the time, Detective. I've always wanted a dilapidating fishing village.
She is more defensive about it than usual.
Full of ghosts and ancient memories. Has this errand yielded you any information? Of course, Detective. You can always drop by later, should something come up. Now, what else can I do for you?
What's this? We're getting reports of normal, reasonable, temperate, political opinions somewhere in Martinez. Of course, a radical centrist. In these bright and loud times where 1,000 frequencies drown one another out, sober thinking is a radical act. It's time to become a citizen of the Kingdom of Conscience. It is not a place. It is a moment in time that can only arise in the right circumstances. In all of human history, it's only been achieved a handful of times. Incrementally. History's greatest catastrophes have been brought about by people trying to make the world a better place. Too quickly. That's the genius of Dolores Day. She recognized that progress is meaningless if its gains are lost because of instability. Real lasting change can only come about gradually, increment by increment. Tisk tisk, just because you live in the present doesn't mean you have the right to place your needs above the needs of the future. You may never live to see the kingdom of conscience. Your children may not. Even your grandchildren might not. But that's no excuse not to keep working. What rationality? What sang-froid? What benevolence? Do you believe the status quo is preferable to chaos and bloodshed? There you have it. Sometimes holding the line is progress. The kingdom is difficult to comprehend and even more difficult to describe. Partly because humanity will need to discard many of the categories that define and limit it today. The kingdom of conscience is post-capitalist, post-national. It's also post-industrial, post-ideological, and even post-sexual. Slow down, Mr. Reasonable. Did you miss the part about compromising and taking things slow? That's right. Remember, real democracy is just around the corner for Revachol. When that real democracy kicks in, a long time from now, we are all going to be so much happier. The woman still has her eyes fixed on the photograph in her hands. In the background, the radio plays. No response. Wherever this woman is, your words fail to reach her.
If you want her attention, you may need to be more forceful.
Where am I? Who are you?
The smile on her face has disappeared, replaced by the weary aspect of a cornered beast.
Never mind. I remember now. I'm still stuck in that traffic jam in the 50s. The men have small jaws and everything is made out of plastic. Why do you need plastic when you can make the world out of amber? Back in Mecca, during the time of the revolution, the sidewalks and cafes are filled with young people. I was on my way to see a new Boyadero picture starring Gabriel Buenguerro. Until you came along, that is. This is Gabriel Buenguerro.
A strikingly handsome man looks straight at you, his head crowned with a wide-brim hat. His hair is dark as an oil slick, and his jaw the most perfectly chiseled thing you've ever seen.
He was the biggest star of his day. Girls used to faint in the aisles of cinema whenever he came on the screen. And schoolboys used to memorize all of his lines.
In all likelihood, it's a world that's only ever existed in her mind.
Someone was. They are someone's memories, boy. What difference does it make if it's me or not? They're beautiful. That is all that matters. Beautiful and true. And they will win. They're coming for this, you know? All of this.
She seems to derive some bitter pleasure from this strange thought, as if the past will one day wipe the present away, like a tidal wave approaching.
I wasn't dreaming. I was there, Lawman. It was early spring, and the mine behind the Black Sun had just come out. The posters were 20 meters tall. Everything was golden. While you, people, were tearing each other apart over your petty little revolution, in Methk, it was a golden age.
The Republic of Mesk is a massive confederation on the Isola of Muindi, the world's largest state by territory. It's a petrostate, a constitutional monarchy, and, as of recently, an outcast due to its tilt to the far right.
Why not, Harife? It's not like I have anything better to do in this hellhole. Of course not. To truly understand the Boyadero, you need to listen to On the Western Plain.
The Boyadero, Boya for short, is a cowherder from upstream Magritte, the great steppes of northern Mesk. He is a rugged individualist and explorer.
It's an old ballad about a young girl who falls in love with a daring Boyadero. He promises to marry her as soon as he returns from the Western Plain. Of course not. The Boyadero returns from the Western Plain a changed man. One night, as he and his beloved are out walking along the river Magritte, she pleads with him to give up his riding and settle down.
In the background, you can hear the orchestra swell as the screen fills with the maiden's imploring eyes.
So the Boyadero strangles his beloved and throws her body in the Magritte. Then he rides off, because the Western Plain is calling to him. You have to understand, a true Boyadero needs a whole horizon to himself. He can't be tied down by man or woman. His beloved was selfish. She didn't know what it meant to love a Boyadero.
What if to truly love a Boyadero is to float lifeless downstream?
She's just a distracted old woman. We should maybe let her get back to her things.
You heard that, Lawman? I don't think your partner likes you spending too much time with me.
Nothing. I just don't think she's connected to anything.
It's because of the Pale. He doesn't want your frail mind caught up in it. And this woman has spent time in the Pale. A lot of time.
Some of them are like home to me now. I would say the routes I drive are usual to me. Lomonosov's Land, Udajnaya Zemlya, the Western Plain. The Transcatolia Magistral, U4-1A, Adestradas du Mirador, all the good ones. The deep trenches, where the bluebirds fly. Irmao, I already am dust. And what is that?
Great. He asked the Pines rep about the Pale, and now he's talking to everyone about it. Fine then. Just try not to black out again, and don't contemplate. We don't have time for that.
It's death, but for the universe, oh, we're contemplating the living shit out of this.
That is exactly what I didn't want you to think. Ma'am, my partner wanted to know if you work in Pale Transport.
No offense, but your partner seems like a bit of an idiot.
Republica, a filterless cigarette from Mesk.
Neither is Pale transportation. Life is transitory. Like Gabriel Buenguerro in Segúreme, Paraíso. You're the opposite of me, then. I remember everything, even the things I never knew. The smell of liquor on Gabriel's lips after the shoot. In the motor park. The roses on the day of Franco Negro's coronation. on the grand stairs of Ryle. The smoke from the fowling piece when Dolores Day was shot. The look on her face, like an orgasm. The wound in her chest. My hand in my father's hand. Except I never had a father, and I never shot her innocent Dolores Day. Heroic doses, Hervé. Heroic. Thought insertion? Dithering? The Grad Catalan Magistral? It's more than dangerous. It's sad. But at first I had to make a living. Now, when you've seen it all go away like that, rolling off like the sea, and then come back to this? What are we doing here? For thousands of years, Gabriel. It doesn't have to be like this. We can just give up. We can just become a vapor. In the belly of an airship, behind the stair windows. So you don't look straight into it. It's not advised to look into it. No, the same one, a roller. They all are nowadays. Special wheels for connecting to the floor of the hold.
The wheels all small and round, multi-axle trailers.
Like looking into the ocean at night, in the dark. You cannot see it, but you know it's there. And it's big, bigger than anything. Bigger than all the other things combined. Nothing. Until it starts. When you are deep enough. Then, for me, it's like autumn. Dark, gray, and orange. The orange of street lights and the color of streets in the electric light. It smells like autumn too. It smells terrible.
Nostalgia. Cooped up in the cabin, shaking. Terrible nostalgia. For yourself. For humans. It's too much to bear. She loves it.
Yes.
No elaboration.
They say there is a point. One that I have not crossed. In the Pale, super deep. If you stray too far, of course, on the U41A, or in Lomonosov's land, where every step you take is one step further from home, no matter the direction. It's a point you cannot come back from. Your mind becomes so radiant with the past, there is a flip. Instead of writing, it erases memory, nearing some kind of indescribable finale. Maybe you've been down the motorway south. It's a story as lone horsemen tell. Lone horsemen, Jerife, not Pale drivers. Way beyond the established Pale that's lit by radio frequencies, where it goes silent and dark, and the process begins, erasure, kilometer by kilometer, in any direction. The motorway south is a road you cannot come back from. No one knows what's at the end. I've only glimpsed the beginning. I've only felt it in the distance, when I was a child. A child rowing on the lake. Josiana.
There is nothing more to do now. She's far away. She is receding in the clutches of some indescribable scattered emotion. The child, descending.
You've fried both your brains enough for today, detective. Let's get some air. This one's far gone.
Shelves filled to the brim with crime novels featuring the supposedly stalwart Vespertine detective Dick crime fiction. These books, what's more, they completely ignore not a single mention of all the stress. The shelves filled to the brim with crime novels featuring the supposedly stalwart.
Oh, crime, robberies, murders, even sexual crimes. We're fortunate to have Dick Mullen and his stories to sort all that out. You're a police officer, apparently. You should buy all of these.
The barbell waits patiently on the floor, like a dog for its master.
Oh, it's you again. Are you looking for a die? Very good. That will be 7 real for one custom die. One universal die for Wirral Untethered.
It feels icy. Just holding this die in your hand sends a jolt of cold down your spine. Through the dark resin, you can make out a nugget of bone hewn from an alligator's jaw.
How did I become one? It was a business decision. I was a regular jeweler at first, but that's an unfocused field with too much competition. Some of my friends were role players. They asked me to make some polyhedral dies out of cobalt. That was my first order. I grew it from there. Not especially. I like working with rare materials and a steady pay. And role players as customers? They're nice people.
Some of those nice people have big bucks to spend on novelty items. She's thankful for the security they provide her.
Oh, it's you again. Are you looking?
You feel nothing. If anything, it's uncomfortably warm in here. She has begun to idly clean one of her carving tools with Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone.
This is Precinct 57. How may I assist you? Right. Please hold.
10-4, come in. Fireworker, over. 10-4, sir, glad to hear that. I'll write down that there is no need to issue a new one to you then. Over. 10-4, I know I already wrote it in a report, but it will stay on my desk for a few days. Over. 10-4, sir, roger that, and very glad to hear it. I will make relevant changes to the report. Roger that, 10-10, over and out.
Yes, what is it? The Swallow, you mean? What about it? Great. Thanks. Yes? This is getting ridiculous. Can't you just defrost it? Or, I don't know. I don't know about the ice cream maker. Just figure something out.
There's a solution, but she doesn't want to hand it over to you yet. It's a thing. Something she holds dear.
The bookstore lady hates me. Says I'm part of the curse, whatever that means. Because she's from Martinez, and people from Martinez have never ever seen a radio computer. She thinks it emits elemental evil. Yes, but she literally started praying for the higher powers when she first saw my Rame Civic. I'm not making this up.
The lieutenant coughs like he's amused.
Once I came in one morning, only to find that my terminal was full of those strange trinkets and amulets. Wards. It looked like some Semenine magic. So what I need you to do here is go have a talk with her, say that you're a policeman and need to get to the building's basement. Then bring me the offside copy. All right? Thanks.
The shaggy-haired girl kneels on the sea ice. She looks up as you approach.
So you talked to my associates, right? Are you going to help us? With the church, I mean. Great. Let us know if there's any progress, will ya? We've been waiting for weeks here.
The device is still warm from her touch and heavy as a brick from the batteries inside. The company logo, Omicron, adorns its yellow plastic cover. Inside, the tape is rolling. The girl looks at the device in your hands. She looks you in the eye, her pupils wide, surrounded by a ridiculous amount of makeup. The wind howls. She remains silent. It's real. Tell her.
What is? I know. I'll stick to it. So thanks, I guess, for the psych session. Maybe I can return it. What's been eating you, officer? Come on, I can tell. But, okay. Be a boyadero about it if you want to. What is it? Oh, really? So, the thing that's been eating you is the slow pace of social progress? No, it sounds like you just got chick issues. Okay, why do you think that? Well, man, that's pretty symbolic, don't you think? Okay, what else? There you have it then, chick trouble. Not political after all. Who was she? Really? You seem pretty upset about this chica. Are you sure you don't remember anything about her? Eyes? Hair colour? Wow, man. That's some pretty strange shit. Are you sure the letters were for you? How come you don't remember, though? Is it like some selective memory thing? Yeah, or it might be that. This one time I did so much booze that I forgot too.
It's obvious she's done more than booze.
Or it might just be some psych bullshit, you know? Königstein wank. You know, the psych thing they've got going on there. Rich people like it. People in Königstein are mostly rich. You're welcome. Might be for the best to keep that shit forgotten though. Just my opinion. If it itches, don't scratch. I did, and I'm sorry. For what it's worth, which isn't much.
This is why I didn't go into the tent. Typical delinquency.
You don't get to choose your posse, they choose you. Mine are idiots, but they're mine. I tried to talk Andre out of it. Okay, but I still regret it. I should have been able to control them, and I will in the future. I promise. May I ask, what did you tell them? Thank you. I'll get them under wraps, I promise. No.
Just no?
It's pretty desolate here. I only hear the dogs bark at night and see the shadows move down the coast. Exactly. It's our chance to turn the grim desolation into an overwhelmingly fun dance party. It's supposed to become like a club for anodic dance music, like that new style of synthesizer stuff they play at the Elysium. Except that, yeah. You know, anodic, cathodic, music that's made with electronic instruments. Synthesizers and tape consoles, microcomputers too. Anything that uses electricity, but isn't guitars. Also found sounds, stuff like that.
You see clear, beautiful, violent flashes of light. Light cutting through a smoke-filled darkness. That is what the future will look like, if it ever comes. This is an evolutionary step up from amplified instruments, which in turn are a step up from acoustic instruments. What comes after it, you wonder? A black-tinted nothingness, or something finer?
Go ahead.
A young man with peroxide blonde hair holds up a Harman Welshi tape player, nodding along to the music. He looks at you with a knowing smile and says, as though you're supposed to be sharing some tremendous evangelical secret.
Hardcore! It's hardcore! Skibbity, skibberdanger. I am the rearranger.
Could there have been a right way out of this garden of forking paths, you think? The young man with the tape recorder acknowledges your return. When he looks at you, he squints as though you were the setting sun.
This is hardcore. It's hardcore! Skibbity, skibberdanger. I am the rearranger. Back to the heavyweight jam. Hardcore! Hardcore! Yeah!
This young man adds a capital G before the H in his yegs and args. This produces a guttural Gotwaldian accent and makes him sound more animal, more in it. Or maybe it's not Gotwaldian. Maybe it's Oranese. Probably an homage to Oranje, where Arno van Eyck is from, judging by his name. Could you be listening to an Arno van Eyck creation right now?
You know about him? You know Van Eyck? Wow!
The skinny wraith looks at you with some disbelief.
So am I! So am I! Oh! Is that why they call you Egghead? Because... Egghead to the mega! The K became the G! The boy became the man! The Advent? We're close. True, hard, full, core! Hardcore! Hardcore to the mega! Here comes the night! We're close. True, hard, full, core, hardcore! Hardcore to the mega! Internally coherent. Good morning, yeah! 1, 2, 3, Yakokata, the place to be! Yakokata is a hardcore place!
Yakokata is an abbreviation from the Gradian term, Zone of Ecological Catastrophe, an agricultural megaproject in the extreme southeast of the Gradian Isola. It involved cutting-edge approaches to irrigation and a completely new type of fertilizer. An intricate system of irrigation networks pockmarking the earth, intermittent seas of phosphorus mud, ripped tarpaulin fluttering in the wind. A pair of molten rubber boots also comes to mind. All in all, a truly hardcore place.
We're close. True, hard, hardcore! Hardcore to the mega! Internally coherent. All core! All right! Yeah!
He furrows his brow as his very large head traces the sublime invisible movement of the music in the very real air of the stuffy tent.
Hardcore! Ah! Is it though? One mind, one spirit. There's no other world. There's no other life. We're close. True. Hardcore. Hardcore. Internally coherent. All core. All right. Yeah.
He furrows his brow.
Hardcore. Ah. The question is, what is the question? But there was no question. We're close. True. Hardcore. Hardcore. Internally coherent. All core. All right. Yeah.
He furrows his brow.
Hardcore. Ah. Is it though? But is it? I mean, really? No, but seriously, I'm a bit worried it isn't.
Don't be alarmed. Everything is okay. He isn't actually worried. Everything is still super hardcore. What he probably means is, it could be even more so.
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm still in love with the hardcore. Sometimes I just feel like anodic music is in its infancy, you know? For example, take this Arno van Eyck jam I've been pumping for the last month, and will continue pumping for the rest of 51. Isn't something holding it back from being hyper? It's like it's only ultra.
I think it's super hardcore, but you're right. It's not hyper hardcore.
If anything, it sounds a bit proto, like it's not fully formed yet. You might be a moribund alcoholic and a failed cop, but you are pretty certain a thing cannot be both proto and hardcore.
Wow! Culture cop! I think you might be right, but how could it become hardcore then? I know it in my heart, but cannot think it in my head. If this is not hardcore, how could anything be? What? Guys, there's something happening in his head. Oh yeah! He's doing it!
But you're not. This is almost certainly a matter that surpasses the limits of reason.
I know! So does mine! No! This is the answer! Yeah! Lungs are for love! Love! In a woman's lungs. Lonely as I am, I'm not afraid. This strange, damaged feeling grows on and on, 'cause I've never loved someone like you before. No nation, but transnation. No war, but class war.
He's not a communist. It's just something he likes to yell. He picked it up from a tape jockey at the Elysium. She was a communist, though.
Yeah! With a rebel yell! I can be a communist. If you want that, do you want me to be a communist?
Please don't turn him into a communist. Oh yeah, turn him into a communist. Come on, it would be super.
Aye! Communism rules the nation. Here comes the sun. All right,